Welcome into the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We'll be here with you for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics, and excited to do so as we head into the weekend on this Friday. Wade, how's your Friday?
Friday's good, Mo. Good to be with you. Good to be with everybody. Man, it is things are good right now. Vibes are high, ready for a good show, ready for a good weekend, and pretty pumped on this Friday.
It should be a good one. In our second hour, we will be joined by Clay Bailey of the Associated Press. He covers the Grizzlies, and Grizzlies coming off a big win last night. Got a big weekend coming up. The trade deadline is less than a week away. And Memphis has been knocked around. Let's get with Clay and see what we can figure out about what direction they might be going in on the floor and on the roster. We'll be catching up with him again in the next hour. In the next segment, we will be joined by, the biggest UT fan west of the Mississippi, Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno. Big ball game for the number 8 Tennessee Vols tomorrow morning. Or tomorrow at noon, depending on where you are. Here, it's an 11 a.m. tip. But 8th-ranked Tennessee has got number 5 Florida coming into Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center. I can't get the order of those right, and I'm trying to be cute, and I'm winding up sounding stupid. But anyway,
just TBA, baby.
Let's just we remember
just like Twitter. It's always Twitter. It's always TBA to me.
There we go. The Tommy Bowl. Yeah, we'll stick to that. Tennessee went to Gainesville. Things didn't go too well down there. Looking for a little bit better outcome this time around. But Tennessee has lost its last 2 and 3 of its last 4. So, big one. And we'll talk to Christopher about it. We'll also talk a little bit about the Lady Vols heading out to Como, taking on the Tigers on Sunday. Lady Vols have kind of hit a little bit of a rough spot as well, but we'll be talking bouncing balls in Tennessee in the next segment. Also, some more women's basketball. Big night. Speaking of Gainesville, big night for a certain Vanderbilt player last night. We got a video that if you've not already seen it, stick around. It's interesting, to say the least. We'll talk a little football, a little Major League Baseball, free agency activity. The Utah Hockey Club, for a first-year program, continues to manage to create some buzz. We'll talk a little bit about them later in the show as well. And we'll get you ready for the weekend with some of the stuff that will be going on this weekend. So stick around. We're looking forward to sharing some thoughts with you here over the next couple of hours. Wade, what do you think?
You know what I'm thinking.
I bet I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it's time to give the people yesterday's results and this weekend schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Before we go too far, folks, I want to remind you that the Friday Rundown is always brought to you by our friend Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb & Associates. The Blue Raider voice also wants to be your trusted advisor in real estate. So contact Chip at 615-542-1915, or you can visit his website at choosechip.net. That's Chip Walters, proud to support youth sports across Middle Tennessee.
Girls High School basketball results from Thursday. Chaslyn Stewart's free throw with 0.3 of a second remaining gave Santa Fe a 36-35 win over Culleoka. We've got coverage of that one at mainstreetmurray.com. Be sure and check that out. Dixon County 54, Henry County 36. Pearl-Cohn with a big 52-18 win over White House. And Spring Hill defeated Battle Creek 36-26. In boys action, Alton Slaughter with 38 points went over the 3,200 mark for his career as Santa Fe defeated Culleoka 81-43, the second 38-point win for the Wildcats over the Warriors in 3 nights. Again, coverage of that at mainstreetmurray.com. Dixon County with a 61-36 win over Henry County. Pearl-Cohn defeated White House 75-43, and it was Spring Hill 74, Battle Creek 31. Women's basketball action from Thursday night. UT Southern 91, Middle Georgia State 64. Freed Hardman with a 72-42 win over Cumberland. It was West Alabama 57, Trevecca 43. Stetson defeated Austin P in the Battle of Hats 79-63. Little Rock down Tennessee State 67-60. It's Florida Gulf Coast 63, Lipscomb 50. Vanderbilt with a 99-86 win at Florida. Again, we'll be talking more about that one here in a bit. Middle Tennessee State in overtime defeats New Mexico State 66-59. On the men's side, Middle Georgia State 85, UT Southern 77. Cumberland defeats the defending national champions in NAIA, Freed Hardeman 89-79. Trevecca with a 70-63 win over West Alabama. New Mexico State outlasts Middle Tennessee State 61-57. Austin P with an 86-77 win over Bellarmine. It was Eastern Kentucky 80, Lipscomb 71. Tennessee State completes the regular season sweep of Little Rock with a 72-70 win. And in the association, Memphis 120, Houston 119.
Let's get into our schedule for this weekend. We'll start with doubleheader boys and girls basketball tonight. TSSAA showdowns, and there are plenty of them. They all start at 6 o'clock. Unless stated otherwise. Clarksville Christian is on the road tonight at Bradley Central. Franklin packing up for a short trip to Brentwood this evening. CPA will be at Brentwood Academy. John Overton is on the road at Cane Ridge. East Hickman traveling to Cheatham County. It'll be Springfield at Clarksville this evening. Nashville Christian on the road at Clarksville Academy. It'll be Hampshire at Culleoka. Clarksville Northwest taking on Dixon County tonight. Other games on the docket: Whites Creek at East Nashville. You can see Davidson Academy at Ezell Harding. Murfreesboro Central Magnet with a tricky trip to Winchester at Franklin County tonight. DCA will be at Friendship Christian. Should be a fun showdown here in Pulaski, Mo, as Lawrence County comes to Hardin Mayfield Gymnasium. Big AAA matchup there. We'll broadcast it on Pulaski Citizen Live. Other games: Maplewood at Glencliff. Hendersonville's on the road at Green Hill. Macon County is at Greenbrier. Harpeth will host Hickman County tonight. Hillsboro will play host to Hunters Lane. Martin Luther King will be at Hume Fogg. Centennial is at Independence. East Robertson at Joe Burns. Merrill Hyde is on the road at Knowledge Academies. Valor Collegiate traveling to Lawson. Wilson Central will tangle on the road tonight at Lebanon. That should be a fun one, always is. Columbia will be on the road tonight at Lincoln County. Mount Pleasant traveling to Loretto this evening. Antioch is at McGavock. Providence Christian traveling to Middle Tennessee Christian. And Eagleville will hit the road for a trip to Moore County.
Continuing tonight's slate with an old school rivalry as Gallatin travels to Mount Juliet. Ravenwood is at Nolensville. Lead Academy goes to Pearl Cone. Pope John Paul II is hosting Lipscomb Academy. Community is at Richland. Oakland goes to Rockvale. Santa Fe, third game in 4 nights as they host Cornersville tonight. Riverdale is at Siegel. Portland goes to Station Camp. Stewart's Creek is hosting Cookville. Kip Nashville is at Stratford. Lewis County goes to Summertown. Page goes to Summit. Sycamore hosts Creekwood. Trousdale County taking on visiting Westmoreland. Battleground Academy is at University School of Nashville. Spring Hill goes down to McMinnville taking on the Pioneers and Lady Pioneers of Warren County. Grace Christian of Franklin goes out to Bell Buckle facing the Lady Feet and the Feet of Webb. Kenwood is at West Creek. Liberty Creek is at White House Heritage. Watertown goes to York Institute. STEM Academy is at Zion Christian. And finally, Laverne is at Smyrna. All those, again, double headers with the girls starting at 6.
Other games on the schedule: girls basketball standalone contest. This one actually gets underway at 5:30. It'll be Innsworth on the road at Harpeth Hall. St. Cecilia Academy will be at Father Ryan. That game is scheduled to tip off at 6 p.m. Boys basketball action tonight: 7:30 showdowns as Good Pasture travels to Mount Juliet Christian, and Innsworth will be at MBA. More on the Preds later, but they are in action tonight. They are on the road. Should be a fun matchup as they head to Buffalo to take on the Sabres. Puck drop comes your way at 6 o'clock. You can see it on the NHL Network, or you can see it on FanDuel Sports South. Saturday now, we flip the calendar, into the month of February. But here we go. As doubleheaders on the docket tomorrow beginning at 6. Franklin Road Academy will be traveling to Columbia Academy. Webb School will be at University School of Nashville. girls only matchup between East Nashville, who's at Good Pasture. That game is set to begin at 3 p.m. College basketball doubleheaders. Thomas University out of Georgia will come to UT Southern inside the Curry Athletic Complex. That doubleheader is set to begin at noon, once again here in Pulaski. Cumberland is on the road at Georgetown College. That's up in Kentucky. That doubleheader is set to begin at noon as well. TSU is on the road at Southeast Missouri State. Doubleheader begins at 1:30. You can catch it on ESPN+. And our final college doubleheader tomorrow, Trevecca is on the road at UAH down in Huntsville, and those games are set to begin at 2 o'clock.
Women's basketball on Saturday. Lipscomb is at Stetson. That's a 1 o'clock start on ESPN+. At 2 o'clock on ESPN+. Middle Tennessee State is at Texas El Paso at 3 o'clock on ESPN+. Austin Peay is at Florida Gulf Coast, and at 4 on the Plus, Belmont is hosting Murray State over at the Kirby Events Center. Men's basketball tomorrow, again, 11 o'clock Central Time tip as Florida visits Tennessee. You can see that one on ESPN. On ESPN+ at 2, UTEP comes to the Glass House taking on the Blue Raiders. At 2:30 on the SEC Network, Vanderbilt, 24th ranked Vanderbilt, is at Oklahoma taking on the Sooners. At 3 o'clock on the Plus, Austin Peay is at Eastern Kentucky. At 4 o'clock on ESPN+, Bellarmine is at Lipscomb. On the ice, a little back-to-back action for the Preds as they travel to Pittsburgh taking on the Penguins at 6 o'clock Central Time. You can see it on FanDuel Sports. Sunday action, women's hoops, 2 o'clock. Tennessee goes to Missouri. That one's on ESPN+. Also at 2 o'clock, also on the Plus, Ole Miss comes to Memorial Gym taking on the Commodore women of Vanderbilt. Another 2 o'clock matchup on Sunday. This is on the men's side. Evansville comes to town taking on Belmont. And at 7:30 Sunday night, it's on ESPN and it's on FanDuel. The Grizzlies go north taking on the Bucks. Giannis in the house. Again, 7:30 tip. It'll be on ESPN and it will be on FanDuel Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you as always by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia. You know, we talked a couple of weeks ago, Wade, with Frank Bonner II of the Daily Memphian about the future of the Southern Heritage Classic, because when Tennessee State released its 2025 football schedule, the Southern Heritage was not on it. TSU has played in that event in every year of its existence since about 1990. It sounds like that will end this year. I'm told by some pretty well-placed sources that Tennessee State Athletics Director Dr. Mickey Allen, in a video call with a number of pretty high-ranking alumni and interim president Dwayne Harris, disclosed that TSU will not play in the Southern Heritage Classic this year. Obviously, things got on shaky ground once Deion Sanders got to Jackson State and pulled the Tigers out of it, and it's kind of been, I wouldn't say hit or miss. Tennessee State wound up playing Arkansas Pine Bluff the last couple of years instead, but for whatever reason, that situation with TSU has kind of fallen apart, and they will not be in that game in 2025. So Fred Jones, a longtime founder and operator of the Southern Heritage Classic, will be looking for a couple of teams for that, because I don't think it's on Arkansas Pine Bluff schedule either. So be interesting. Again, this is a long-standing event down in Memphis. Again, we talked to Frank Bonner II a couple of weeks ago from the Daily Memphian, just discussing the significance of the event. And, when it had Tennessee State and Jackson State in it, you had two programs, two institutions both of whom had strong alumni groups in the Memphis areas. And this was has been just an event. It's as Frank said, it wasn't just the game. There's a lot around it, but it's around a game. The game is kind of the showpiece of the entire weekend, and so we'll be keeping an eye on what they do to try to keep the event together. And I'm sure they'll come up with two teams to play a game, but it won't have the stature of certainly Tennessee State and Jackson State, and probably not Tennessee State and Pine Bluff either. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, they got a lot of ground to make up in not a ton of time, right? Because you can maybe get by with filling in one team on short notice, but man, when you're trying to piece together two pieces of that puzzle, that becomes a real tricky task. And like we said, the clock is ticking. So best of luck to Fred Jones and all of his staff and all that crew that do a good job of putting that event together. They did a quality job of kind of making a little chicken salad with Jackson State pulling out already. So let's see what they can do for an encore in this regard, right?
Absolutely. And as it stands, TSU has announced an 11-game schedule. They've got a couple of weekends open in September, though, and I'm told that one of those might be filled by another nearby school. Alabama A&M and TSU might be getting together here in September. So keep an eye out for that. And as we get more finalized on that, we'll be sure and let you know. But more and more, it sounds like TSU will not be playing in the Southern Heritage Classic. In fact, again, Mickey Allen, the AD at Tennessee State, disclosed that to a number of folks in a video conference last night, including the school's interim president. So sounds pretty official to me.
Yeah, sounds like it's a done deal. And obviously, we'll wait for the dust to kind of settle, because your obvious question is what changed or what happened? Be real curious to see if we learn any more in an official capacity, at least. Because going back to 1990, I mean, that's a long-standing tradition that means a lot to a lot of folks. And I'll be really curious to know kind of what the rationale was behind that.
Yeah. I mean, they kept that thing going even during the fall of 2001, after 9/11 and that kind of thing. I specifically remember covering the 2001 game. It was on Thanksgiving weekend. So it meant that much at that time to know we're going to play this game, and got both schools to come and play it over Thanksgiving weekend. So, I mean, this is, again, it's a big deal. It's a big deal in HBCU football. And again, the dominoes started to fall when Coach Prime came in and decided that Jackson State wasn't getting enough out of that game and could get more elsewhere, and pulled them out. And it's just kind of devolved from there to this. And it's unfortunate to see, but as you mentioned, Fred Jones, great promoter. And I'm sure he'll pull something together. So we'll be keeping our eyes open to see what that is. But it won't be with TSU, at least not this year. So, yeah. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will be joined by Christopher Gabriel talking a little UT basketball. Stay tuned. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
The weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And one of the biggest events of the weekend takes place early on the weekend, specifically 11 o'clock tomorrow, as number 5 Florida visits number 8 Tennessee. And to help us kind of take a look at this matchup, we are bringing in, again, the biggest Tennessee sports fan west of the Mississippi, Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio. He hosts the CG program weekends out of Fresno. And Christopher, is your air duties going to interfere with your ability to watch this game tomorrow?
No. First of all, good to see you guys. Always great to be with both of you. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine, man.
Great. No, well, I also host the Daily Show, the daily morning news magazine show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9. Weekends, no, I'm done at 11 Pacific time, so everything will be good. I have to tell you guys something kind of funny. So these are my reading glasses, and we never go anywhere without these or the phone. So when I came on, before I came on, I didn't have these on, and I'm looking at Mo, and I'm thinking to myself, is Mo wearing an ascot? So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave these on just to make sure that somebody doesn't switch places with Mo or Wade.
You leave those on, and you leave those on, and I'm going to, during the break, see if I can Google an ascot, see if I can have one for the next time you come on. I
feel like there's an endorsement waiting for you.
Just for stuff and giggles. Absolutely. Christopher, again, Tennessee comes into this game 17-4 overall, 4-4 in SEC play. Florida is 18-2, 5-2. The Gators are number 5. UT has lost 3 of their last 4, and they lost when they went to Gainesville a couple of weeks ago. Now, everybody that we've talked to about Southeastern Conference basketball, obviously it's the best conference in the country. Nobody's going to get through it scot-free is the thought. Auburn seems to be saying, hold my beer to all that. But, have we passed the point that, everybody's going to get a little roughed up? And are we concerned about UT right now?
Well, I think there's yes in both of those. Going back to the 3 losses that the Vols have had recently, Vandy, the most recent ones, Vandy, Kentucky, and Auburn, not in that order. Mm-hmm. The Vandy game, should the Vols have won that game? Well, I think it's more of a could have. They could have won that game. They were, we all watched the game. They were in recovery mode until the end. Chaz Lanier misses 1 of 2 free throws. That's not why they lost. It was an aggregate from everything that happened before they got to that point in the game. The Auburn game, they could have won that game as well. Some odd calls. That's as far as I'll go with that. At the end of the game, Vols couldn't shoot the ball worth a darn. And then the UK game, and I wanted to make sure that I had the numbers right. So I had the stats next to me. And what's interesting about this is that basically, not including shooting, the Vols led every statistical category that you would want, but they didn't win. And what's interesting about that game is that I never got the feeling that the Vols were going to win that game. They just, right from the get-go, except for the 11-0 run that they made to take that 33-30 lead, they never really felt like they were in a flow. So I think the Vols, they have some problems right now. And I mean, we saw a hint of that in the Florida game. It was a bad night. I know that Rick Barnes, listen, I'm a Rick Barnes fan, but at the same time, I said this when he first came to Knoxville, is that the style of offense that I want to see? Not really. I've never been a fan of it, but I'm a fan of Rick, and I'm a fan of the quality person that he is, the men that he mentors. I love what he's done for this program, but he said everybody takes a beating like that. Not everybody. Not everybody takes a beating like that. And there were people you saw. There's always somebody on social media that will go back 20 years in records and say, well, you saw what happened to Duke 13 years ago. Well, none of that matters. What matters is right now. My concern for the Vols, fellas, is that there is not a guy on this team that is able to create his own offense in a flash, not like Dalton Knecht did last year. Are there guys that can shoot? Of course. But what I'm seeing mostly are guys passing up shots. When I think of Igor, how many times is he positioned in the offensive in the half court? He gets the ball at the top of the key and he takes 2 dribbles and stops. And we all know in basketball 101, don't pick up your dribble. Please don't pick up your dribble. He does that, and he's already looking to pass the ball instead of – he's 6'10", for heaven's sake. Go strong to the bucket. Chaz Lanier, he's just not been in rhythm. And I think there's something to the fact that the physicality of SEC games has had an effect on him, and he's had a slower adjustment from when he was at North Florida than DK did coming here from Northern Colorado.
Correct.
And at the same time, you look at a guy like Dubar. He looks like he could be a good player, but he comes in launching like he's Steph Curry coming in off the bench. And as of yet, I mean, I want to see him contribute. Haven't really seen as much except for one game. So I think the Vols have some problems. A lot of things will go to Rick Barnes saying he doesn't know how to coach offense. I don't know that he doesn't know how to coach offense. He hasn't won 800 plus games just because of defense. But I think the problem is there's nobody right now that is stepping forward and saying, fellas, get on my back. I'm going to take you home.
Well, here's the thing, though, Christopher. Do they even have that person? To go back to your point.
Yeah. Mo, they may not. They may not. They have guys that can shoot it. They have guys that can slash and hard cut to the basket, but we're not really seeing any consistency with either. I mean, Jemai Mashak, somebody who I just think we're going to feel, Vols fans will feel his loss when he's gone because he does so many things. I mean, I'm not breaking news here. He's not a great offensive performer to the extent that I know that he took thousands of shots in the offseason, but he's not really looking for his shot. But the one thing that he does is he not only can go fast, he can go fast with the ball. And you understand, we all understand that there's a difference in being fast and being fast with the ball. He can do that. He can get off the floor. I wish that he looked to go to the bucket quicker because I think he is an option, a potential weapon that Rick Barnes has not made use of. So circling back, Mo, to your original point, I don't know that the Vols have that guy that's going to save them. And it goes back to something I said with you and Wade a number of months ago, that you asked me what I thought this team could do. And I said 2 things. This team has the potential, because of their defensive capabilities, to go to the Final Four. Because of their offensive inconsistencies, they could be out in the second game, Saturday or Sunday in March.
Yeah, it's a crazy kind of contrast there. But since you mentioned defense, I am curious your thoughts, Christopher. We're talking about a loss to Vanderbilt and a loss to Kentucky where they gave up season highs in both 76 to Vanderbilt and then 78 to Kentucky. Are there any concerns, or do you just chalk that up to the kind of the flow of the game with maybe now the one calling card that they had in their defense?
I do have some concerns, Wade, and they really came to light in the Kentucky game. I never thought that I would say this about another coach schooling, I'm going to use the word loosely, schooling a Rick Barnes team at their offensive end, but that's a little bit of what we saw against Kentucky. They had a great plan. They spread the floor in the half court a little bit more, and their ball movement was fast. It was crisp. They were making use of skip passes. They were driving. They were forcing the defense to collapse and then kicking out the guys who made shots. And it's such a basic, right? It's such a basic what they did. But I think teams that play Rick Barnes teams often allow Rick Barnes defense to dictate what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. Kentucky said, here's what we're going to do. We are going to dictate to you at this end, and we're going to make you adjust to us. And the Vols did not adjust fast enough. The Vols' defensive rotation wasn't fast enough, and we saw that in the Vandy game too. So, Wade, that's my concern right now. I don't know if it's just been one of those things or they've been worn down, but I think the book is out on how to attack the Vols in the half court. And we can say, well, teams earlier didn't do it. Well, Illinois did, and Illinois almost beat them. And nobody else that the Vols have played early in the season really had the capabilities in terms of talent to stay with the Vols. Now the Vols are playing teams that have equal or a little more talent, and it's been problematic.
One thing, too, on that, it is worth pointing out, yeah, they gave up 76. Yeah, they gave up 78. They're still, surrendering less than 60 a game on average, and Ken Palm still loves them. They're still ranked second in terms of net defense. So even with those two results included, Tennessee's defense, I think everybody still realizes they're pretty solid. That's where I kind of land, maybe just a little bit of a shaky performance. And I love what you said about Kentucky kind of taking the drive, if you will, or pushing the tempo on Tennessee the other night.
Yeah, and listen, this is a team, if they can make some shots, and it almost seems crazy that we're talking about a major Division I program. Some would say it's elite, some would say it's borderline elite, but this is a program under Rick Barnes that has done exceptionally well in the regular season. We all know the difficulties they've had in March, and you know what? To be fair to Rick, they're not the only team that has had difficulty in March, but that's who we follow and cover, so we notice it more. But there's a lot to speak of for this Tennessee team. And defensively, you're right, Wade, they're going to stay in basically every game except for that Florida game. By the way, Florida just scored 10 more points in that game in Gainesville, and it's gotten worse. This team, just looking at the numbers, and I put the numbers up next to me here, it's almost unfathomable how badly they have shot the last couple of games. And listen, as a former ball player, we've all played ball. If you're a scorer or if you're a shooter, the only way to get out of it is to keep doing both. You expect at some point that they're going to find the range, but they just haven't. And I think that Rick Barnes and that staff, they really need to keep getting in these guys' ears and continue to tell them, shoot the ball, shoot the ball, shoot the ball, and especially don't pass up open shots. Forgive me for being redundant, but it's mind-boggling to me to see how many times Gainey has missed open looks, Lanier has missed open looks, Zakai has missed more than he usually does. So I'm very interested to see what this team does tomorrow against Florida.
Hey, to that point real quick, guys, they were 13 of 41 on uncontested shots versus Kentucky the other night. And they were 8 of 33 on uncontested three-pointers. So, extra passes aside, they were getting open looks. They just weren't draining them the other night.
I'm glad you used that phrase. You brought up extra passes, because I had a coach once who wanted, I don't know what era, I think it was the Hank Iba era that he was coaching us in. And this was 30, 40 years past Hank Iba. But he always wanted 5 passes in the half court before we did anything. And that's a waste of time. If you've got a shot, take the shot. And I think sometimes the Vols get so caught up in doing the weave at the top of the key, and nobody's really looking to score. Nobody's really looking to do anything. They waste too much time on the shot clock. And by the time they get ready to finally find someone to take the shot, they've got 5 seconds left, and the possession has gone out the window.
Christopher Gabriel, the biggest UT fan west of the Mississippi, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Obviously, with Florida having already won this matchup once, there's an added impact to this one. Next up, after this weekend, they continue at home. Tennessee does, with Missouri coming in on Wednesday the 5th, and then they go to Oklahoma, to Kentucky, and they've got Vanderbilt at their place. So that's their next 4 games after tomorrow. And again, we've talked about the SEC, and you're going to take your hits and that kind of thing. But as Wade has said on more than one occasion, you can't let yourself fall into a slide. And Tennessee is 4-4. They've lost 3 of their last 4. You really need to kind of try to hold serve at home, because the road is especially tough in this league.
Well, you're right, absolutely right, Mo. I mean, and that's it, right? I mean, the road is tough. Everybody has problems on the road. I mean, Kentucky lost by a few more points at Vandy when they went to Memorial Gym. No game is easy in this conference, save for, as you said at the very top of our conversation, Auburn seems to, they seem to be finding a way to get things done. About this Florida game tomorrow, and I said this on X or Twitter, but after that game, I hope some of these players circled that date tomorrow after what was an absolute embarrassment. I mean, that was a beatdown like we don't normally see with Rick Barnes' teams. And listen, Florida had, I know a lot of our fans were upset at the stuff that was going on the Florida bench. Look, they had every right to have fun. I mean, they were having a great, to the winners go the victors go the spoils.
That's it.
They had more power to them. The Vols would be doing the same thing. But I hope that if nothing else, they are looking at tomorrow's game and remembering every single basket, every single dunk, every single block, every single embarrassment that was inflicted upon them a few weeks ago, because they got their butts handed to them. And you want to talk about a team that they owe Florida in a big way.
73-43 back on January 7th in Gainesville. Only 2 number 1 teams in the country have lost to the degree that Tennessee did at Florida. So like you said, it left a mark, and you'd like to think it left a memory for those involved. Speaking of teams on a little bit of a skid, again, Tennessee's women go to Missouri on Sunday. The Lady Vols, as have pretty much everybody else, took it on the chin against South Carolina on Monday, but they are 3-5 in league play. And, you're really encouraged by what you've seen out of this team in Kim Caldwell's first year. 15-5 overall, 3-5 in conference play. Missouri at or near the bottom of the conference, 12-10, 1-6. A chance for the Lady Vols to go and, get a confidence building victory, you'd like to think.
So a couple of thoughts about the Lady Vols. I knew a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit about Kim Caldwell when she got hired. And what I knew about her was the kind of offensive pressure she put on teams and the defensive suffocation she tried to put on teams, full court and half court press. It's funny, that South Carolina game, and this just goes to show you what people do on social media. I said, one of the things that really impressed me was how this team never gave up. They never quit. They fought hard. Somebody came at me and said, I don't like that you implied they were quitters. And again, you really wish that people would employ reading comprehension before they, right? Because what I was trying to say was, and it was obvious to most people that had the IQ of an acorn or more, what I was trying to say was Kim Caldwell has taken this program and these players in a place that Kelly Harper did not. I loved Kelly when she was Kelly Jolly as a player. She was always sort of mid as a coach. And that's not a knock. That's reality. That's what she was. Kim Caldwell has got this team believing that they are never out of a game. And we saw that against South Carolina, against Oklahoma, and against LSU. I love where this program is at and where they're going. Fellas, I thought you might find this interesting. My daughter goes to a high school here, my younger daughter, called Clovis West. They are ranked in the top 25 nationally. They are ranked in the top 10 in the state. They just played a team that has one of the Lady Vols commits, Jada Civil, from Florida. And the coach is a good friend of mine. His name is Craig Campbell. He's won almost 800 games. He said to me, CG, I know you're a big Tennessee guy. He goes, let me tell you. He goes, that Jada Civil, she's a beast. He goes, she is a woman out there among young girls playing. He went on and on about the kind of player that she is. And the reason I bring her up is that you look at what this team is doing right now, and they've got talent, but they're not loaded. You saw the talent disparity between them and South Carolina. It was clear. But talent is coming. I mean, when you consider that Kim Caldwell hasn't been there a full year and she's got the number 2 class coming in, that speaks volumes about players looking at her style of play and saying, I want to be a part of that. That's cool. So I think this team, even though they've hit a little bit of a skid in the SEC, they've been in games, they've been right there. They've got players who are playing loose, playing free, unafraid to shoot. Rick Barnes' players should look at those players and say, you see what they're doing? They're letting the shots go. I really like where this program is at. You want to see them continue to win. You want to see them get a win at Missouri. But I don't know how you guys feel, but especially you, Mo, because I think, Wade, I think you're a Vandy guy, right? I think you're
I'm a Wolverines guy through and through. They took one on the chin versus South Carolina at the start of the year, so I know a little bit of the pain that Tennessee fans are feeling right now. But
I'll just say this about Michigan. I have some friends who went there, and that is really, Ann Arbor is just one of the beautiful cities in this country, one of the great college towns. I'm going to stop there because that's all I can really say. About
not much else needs to be said.
Nothing else. But I do think that again, this program. I remember a few years ago they had a camera in halftime with Kelly Harper, and I remember her just yelling at her players saying, no more outside shots. Everything's going to go under the bucket. It's going to go to the low blocks. And I thought that may not be the message that you want to send to your team. And now you have a coach at the other end of that saying, go.
We're not shooting anything in the paint.
That's it, yeah.
Christopher Gabriel of KMJ Radio out of Fresno joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little UT hoops. Christopher, as always, we appreciate it. And maybe we can get a couple here over the weekend, much needed. So we'll see.
That would be great. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I suspect that we probably won't talk next week. So I'm just going to tell you, as a person whose family lived in Philadelphia for 50 years, let's go Eagles. Friends of mine down in Georgia have been saying, I guess I got to root for the Eagles. Where are you guys at with the game?
You know, I'll be honest with you. A three-peat, I don't know if it's ever happened. If it has, it hasn't happened much. I wouldn't necessarily mind seeing that. I don't have the Chiefs fatigue that a lot of people seem to. And the whole officials bias thing, I just think is odd. But I wouldn't have a problem if the Eagles win. But I think I'd kind of like to see a three-peat. Wade?
How about you, Wade?
Yeah. Eagles winning would be okay. I just hope it's a good game. I hope obviously it's a competitive game. I'd be fine with either team winning. We got an MTSU guy that plays on the Eagles, which would be kind of nice to see him get a ring, but also it'd be really cool to see Mahomes, begin that quest toward the inevitable GOAT conversation, because he feels well on his way and certainly justified.
Before I go, next time I come back, and by the way, thank you for the invite. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you guys. Always really enjoy it. But next time when I come back, I'm hoping to see that ascot. I just
we're working on a deal with Men's Warehouse for him right now.
There you go.
Here's the thing, Christopher. Once I get an ascot, then I've got to figure out how to tie an ascot.
Oh, that's the problem, right? Because I wouldn't know.
Yeah. So, but just for you, I'll see what I can do.
I'm ready. Thanks, fellas. Always a pleasure.
Hey, we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
When we continue here on Main Street Sports today, we'll talk a little women's hoops. Big night for a Vanderbilt freshman, not her first, but her biggest. Interesting night elsewhere in the Southeastern Conference. We'll talk about all of that and more when we come back.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Hey guys, Wade Neely here, one half of Main Street Sports Today, reminding you that Zoolumination continues right here at the Nashville Zoo. It's the nation's largest outdoor lantern festival. Some impressive stuff that has something for everybody here in the Music City. So again, Zoolumination rolling along all the way through February 9th. Make sure you grab your tickets now.
Continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. And if y'all don't know the name Michaela Blakes, it's just a matter of time before you do. Last night, the Vanderbilt freshman set a Southeastern Conference single game scoring record. Men's or women? Hold up. Let me get all this right. Okay, she scored 53 points in Vanderbilt's win down at Florida, 99-86, the final for the number 23 Commodores. 53 points are tied for the second most points scored by a freshman in Division I. Only former Delaware standout Elena Deladon scored more with 54. She's tied with former Nevada standout Chris Starr, who in 1983 scored 53. So the only 50-point scorer, men's or women's, in Division I basketball this year. The most in SEC women's basketball history. Jocelyn Penn out of South Carolina scored 51 in 2003. UT's Patricia Roberts scored 51 in 1976. So this is the most points scored in SEC women's basketball history. Vanderbilt moving to 18-4 with the win. She was 16 of 24 from the floor, 5 of 9 from three-point range, and 16 of 18 from the foul line. And, you know, we've heard her name a lot here over the last few weeks. She was National Freshman of the Week a couple of weeks ago, and she's not cooled off, clearly. So, huge night.
Yeah, massive night. And most importantly, right, got the win for Vanderbilt to kind of keep the mojo rolling. That could have been a real tricky game. They were favored in that game, but going on the road, as we've discussed, is a difficult task, and more impressive, maybe as a function of how close the game was, 99-86. She played 39 minutes last night. So, I mean, she was doing it all, over half of their scoring, but Vanderbilt still flirted with 100, just shy at 99. So that's an outstanding effort. And yes, just continuing to impress. Some rarefied air you just discussed when you mentioned a lot of those names.
No question. You know, Vanderbilt had lost 3 in a row. They lost at home to Kentucky. They lost bad down at Ole Miss. They went down to Baton Rouge and really pushed then undefeated LSU before losing by 6. But they've not lost since. They defeated Tennessee at Memorial a couple weeks ago. They busted the clock on Arkansas, winning 101-60. went to Tuscaloosa on Sunday and won 66-64, and now this one. So Vanderbilt women on a 4-game win streak here, and they've got Ole Miss coming to town Sunday afternoon, kind of a little bit of a return to the scene of the crime. I don't think this one will be a 28-point game like the one was down at Oxford, and if Michaela Blakes has anything to say about it, it certainly won't be. So, given the history and the historical events, this one might be one to keep an eye on Sunday. Again, Ole Miss at Vanderbilt, 2:00. You can see it on ESPN Plus, or you can just head over to Memorial and check it out. LSU and Oklahoma got a little chippy last night, basically from the start. They had 2 players ejected in the first period of that matchup down in Baton Rouge. It was eventually a 107-100 game, LSU defeating Oklahoma. But midway through the fourth quarter, Kim Mulkey drew a technical. I think they were up 22 at the time, but she draws a technical, and well, just check out her reaction.
The motion that made the response to there was mistaking being fouled motion.
That notebook that she just slapped out of the hands of one of her assistants was being held by Simone Augustus, who went into the Hall of Fame this past summer, I believe, the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, one of the greatest players ever to play at LSU or in women's college basketball, period. Went on to a great career with the Minnesota Lynx of the WNBA. And while her reaction of just continuing to hold her hands in the position that they were in.
Yeah, she sold it well.
Yeah, but, Twitter blew up over this, obviously, and a number of folks drawing parallels between Kim and Danny Hurley up at UConn, and it's tough to dispute any of that. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, she's kind of just up to her old tricks in that regard. I mean, we see coaches, the history of college basketball, men and women's, has really just been one big long slog of coaches' tirades, it feels like. And whether it's at their own players, which we've certainly seen our fair share of over the years, or whether it's at the officials or maybe even an assistant coach, it just feels like the sport is almost a weird glorified homage to just the coaches going off. We live for these reactions, whether it's Hurley, whether it's Mulkey, Bob Knight, of course. I mean, we kind of have seen this throughout the history of the sport. And Kim just wanted to add another little notch on her belt. That was tame almost by her standards. I feel like she could have gave us a little more, Mo.
She probably could have given us a little more. I mean, she could have kicked the notebook once she slapped it to the floor or something. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, nothing would have surprised us, but I just don't feel like Simone deserved that.
No, I mean, of course not. And that's the frustrating part. And that's kind of just, like I said, it's been so embedded in the culture. We've seen it just for so long that you're almost immune to it. But yeah, you're sitting there thinking, man, this is one of your greats in the history of the game and certainly of your program, and just flying off the handle, just losing your cool without question.
Yeah. I'd be interested to hear what the aftermath was of that. If the two parties had a discussion, or if Simone just let it roll, or how you handle that situation. That's tough. We talked about Caitlin Clark going back to Iowa to have her number retired here. She'll be going back to Iowa again in May, as the Indiana Fever will play the Brazilian national team in a preseason matchup on May 4th at Carver Hawkeye Arena. So, Caitlin is must-see TV everywhere, but especially on her own campus. So,
no doubt. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I did want to point out, I misspoke the other day. Her jersey's actually getting retired. It's this Sunday. It's not the Sunday of All-Star Weekend, so I misspoke the other day. But yeah, moving the needle regardless of the situation. And this is another chance for folks to kind of dip their toes into the water. I think we've talked about it and buttered everybody enough up with the offseason talk. I think ratings are going to continue to climb this year. The WNBA stands to benefit bigly from this going forward.
Yeah, it's tough to think those ratings won't continue to climb. Yeah. Again, Iowa plays USC Sunday, so Juju Watkins and company will be on hand for the retirement of Caitlin Clark's number. And again, on May 4th, the Indiana Fever and the Brazilian national team out at Iowa City. So 6 o'clock start. I don't know what May 4th is on, but that is when the event will take place. May 4th is on a Sunday. 6 o'clock Eastern, so 5 o'clock Iowa time. So,
hey, and real quick, Iowa desperately needs, if at all possible, it's we're probably preaching to the choir here, but it's going to be a gargantuan task. But they desperately need to win that game if at all costs on Sunday. With USC sitting there at 9-0 in league play, and Iowa's lowly at 4-6, so they have fallen off a cliff from where we're used to seeing them these last couple of seasons.
Yeah, that's it's a tall task though. USC is pretty good. So.
Won 15 in a row heading into this one.
Goodness. Free agency continues across the WNBA, and it seems 3-time champion Natasha Howard will be joining the Fever. I guess she'll be in Iowa City on May 4th. Going back to Indiana, apparently. She has since played with the Lynx, Storm, Liberty, and most recently the Dallas Wings after leaving the Fever. And again, she has won 3 league championships, going back there to a core of Caitlin, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell, who recently announced that she'll be re-signing with that franchise. So she was drafted out of Florida State by the Fever, played there 2 years before moving on, was on the Lynx's championship team in 17, won a pair of championships in Seattle in 18 and 20. So bringing a little experience back with her. And while it can't be league official until tomorrow, it's Instagram official, as she posted on her account, back to where all my dreams came true. So big get for the Fever as they continue to, again, put pieces around Caitlin to try to get going and get some upward mobility in the Eastern Conference. Speaking of the Eastern Conference, former Chicago Sky Guard Courtney Vandersloot, who spent the last 2 years with the Liberty, is going back to the Sky. 5-time All-Star, 5-time All-WNBA, drafted by the Sky in 2011, and obviously helped the Liberty to this past year's league championship. So
good get for Chicago, who was knocking on the doorstep of the postseason last year. Maybe an extra year of seasoning for Reese, but then also obviously bringing in a vet like Vandersloot could be a recipe to kind of lift them up a little further.
Reese and Camila Cardozo. So they've got the middle pretty well nailed down, it feels like. And Vandersloot, again, a veteran presence in the backcourt for them certainly can't hurt what they're trying to do. They made a move with the coaching reins, getting rid of Teresa Weatherspoon after 1 year and hiring Tyler Marsh, who had been an assistant with the Aces, I do believe. So they are trying to get some things headed in the right direction there as well. Also, this isn't necessarily WNBA related, but it is women's professional basketball related. Wade and I will be broadcasting live Monday from Municipal Auditorium as the Athletes Unlimited basketball season starts up next week, and they're having a media day down there on Monday. So be sure and catch us and see who we are able to wrangle some time with on Monday. Looking forward to that event.
Yes, sir.
Hour number 1 of the weekend warm-up is in the books. Stick around for hour number 2 here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Get started right now. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. The Tennessee Sports Writers Association recently named its 2024 College Football Player and Coach of the Year. And the Player of the Year is Tennessee running back Dylan Sampson. SEC Offensive Player of the Year, tough to argue. Tennessee obviously went 10-3, earned a top 10 final season ranking and a berth in the first college football playoff. Second team All-American by Walter Camp, the Football Writers Association of America, Sporting News, and USA Today. First team All-SEC. He set a school single-season record for rushing with 1,491 yards, 22 touchdowns, 22 total touchdowns scored, 132 points scored, and scored in 11 straight games for the Vols. Led the conference in rushing attempts, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. I guess that's the Triple Crown, right?
Yeah.
10 100-yard rushing games in SEC play. Well, not in SEC play, on the season. Rushed for 114.7 yards a game, also leading the conference. Led the conference in all-purpose yards with 1,638. So pretty dominant performance by Dylan Sampson to roll to the Tennessee Sports Writers Association's Player of the Year honors. Your Coach of the Year, Vanderbilt's Clark Lee, and again, very tough to argue with that selection. He was the SEC Coach of the Year. Vanderbilt posting its first winning season and winning its first bowl game since 2013 with that win over Georgia Tech at the Birmingham Bowl, and obviously the win over Alabama at Dudley Field last year, their first top-ranked victory ever. First win over a top 5 team in 60 tries. First win over Alabama since '84. Vanderbilt with a fantastic season under Clark Lee, and earns your Tennessee Sports Writers Association's Coach of the Year honor for 2024. So congrats, obviously, to both of those individuals. Great seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Senior Bowl is this weekend. East-West Shrine game was last night, and a lot of these games are just, kind of getting in where they fit in, I guess, Wade. There was another, all-star type game. What was it? The Hawaii Bowl about a week and a half ago that
I think so.
Some
Vaguely
kid,
remember
there
hearing
were,
about that.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, I remember when these things were kind of a big deal. It seems like even though we have more information and more knowledge of stuff, we know less. But the East-West Shrine game was last night, and a guy who apparently caught a few eyes, not necessarily last night, but through preparation, is Syracuse quarterback and former Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord. It seems to be maybe working his way up some folks' draft boards. He's not going to overtake, obviously, Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders, but he may be kind of working his way into that number 3 quarterback position, it sounds like. A lot of folks impressed with him. 6'2", 224. Threw for 4,779 yards this past year, setting an Atlantic Coast Conference record at Syracuse. And showed a live arm in preparation this week, and again seemed to create some buzz for himself. Some talking about him being the 3rd quarterback off the board after Ward and Sanders. So
yeah, it could be could sneakily move up the list, because you're right, it does feel like Ward and Sanders kind of entrenched there, and then it kind of just comes down to, do you get the ear, or do you say the right things or impress the right people for a franchise? And based on that, you're looking at some combo of McCord, Milroe, or Jackson Dart. It kind of feels like that's the general flow, general consensus. You can throw a guy like Quinn Ewers or Will Howard in there, but McCord kind of sneakily making his way up the charts. And that's the cool thing, right, Most, is you get the right team, and if they fall in love with you, it doesn't matter where you're ranked at on everybody else's board. All you need is press the right team at the right time with the right pick, and you're sitting pretty.
All you need is one. And you mentioned Jackson Dart, and I kind of felt like I feel like he is the number 3 guy now. Maybe McCord surpasses him. I'm not sure, but I'm kind of I'm not big on speculating on the draft typically, but Dart really feels like a second-day pick for the Titans to me. And I don't know that Ward, given the situation with the Titans offensive line, I just don't think a quarterback at number 1 overall is the way to go. So we'll see if they agree with me or not. But I think Dart would be a solid pick for the Titans on day 2 if it went that way. But again,
I don't know about the Titans, but it does feel like he's destined to be a solid second-day pick for somebody. And there will be I like what he brings to the table. He gives me a similar vibe of like a Bo Nix, who we saw obviously have a really successful rookie season. Kind of can make some gritty plays and some tough throws. Not necessarily going to just blow you away with his athleticism, but he can definitely be crafty. So that could be a nice pickup, like you said, for somebody, especially on like a day 2.
6'2", 225. Got a little size to him. May not be as tall as I thought he was, but I mean, good sturdy body there. I think somebody's going to be pleased with him on the second day. We'll see how that goes. His teammate, defensive tackle Walter Nolan, who played his high school ball first in Memphis and then in Knoxville, grabbing some eyes as well during Senior Bowl prep. 6'3", 293. Daniel Jeremiah says his twitch and burst are rare for a player of his size. So another guy to keep an eye on out of Lane Kiffin's program down in Oxford. Shifting gears ever so slightly, a free agent that did not sign with the Dodgers, Wade. Max Scherzer apparently is going north of the border, going to play for Toronto, 1 year, 15.5. Did not pitch a lot for Texas this past year, but 9 starts. Came back from back surgery and then had hamstring and shoulder injuries. 3.95 ERA in 43 and a third innings, 40 strikeouts, 10 walks. You know, I tell you, and he might be 40 years old, but I think in this game, sub 4 ERA ain't nothing to sneeze at. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays in the AL East.
Yeah, could be a sneaky pickup for the Jays, and you're not expecting a ton out of him at this point in his career. He's second on the active all-time wins list, trailing Verlander by a fair amount, but he's got 215 wins in his career ERA. Obviously, his better years are behind him, but still 3.16. So to your point, yeah, I think if you can just get some nice innings out of this guy, he's not going to just blow people away like he did in his prime, but he's certainly enough to maybe give you a little extra stability there in your rotation.
Sure. And I mean, Toronto's trying to close the gap between themselves and the Yankees and Orioles. And you know, if you get 3 teams out of the AL East into the playoffs, you're trying to get by Boston and Tampa Bay there probably. So maybe this helps them with that. 3 Cy Youngs, 8 All-Star appearances, 2 World Series championships, and 3,400 plus career strikeouts. So, you know, is there anything left in the tank? I guess Toronto's rolling the dice that there is. We'll see how that goes.
Crazy to think about. They traded Kikuchi, so that kind of, you know, they waved the white flag a little bit for the rest of the season. But, man, they ended up 20 games back of the Yankees and dead last in that division. So they got some work to do just to overtake the 2 teams in front of them.
Absolutely. The Utah Hockey Club, they are having a contest, a fan vote contest for a nickname. I tell you, I think I kind of like Utah Hockey Club, and it is one of the finalists along with Mammoth and Outlaws. Now, if you read an article on their nickname contest yesterday, it would have been Mammoth and Wasatch, as in the mountain range in that state. Wade, I'm sure you've been there, right? You've been to the Wasatch.
Didn't traverse all the way up in there. We were down in the southwest, but yeah, they're right around there. That's where the good skiing is up there.
Okay, so they switched out Outlaws after the fans kind of had an uprising regarding that. So Outlaws, Mammoth, and Hockey Club will be voted on for the team's nickname going forward. Now, Yeti apparently was in the mix, and the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office shot it down because there's, as you probably know, a cooler company that shares the name. I think that's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, tough break. Would have obviously been a smooth and easy sponsorship. The only thing is, what happens if Yeti Coolers is not exactly a fan of the product that's on the ice lately? You know, they're doing okay right now in their first season. What if things start going sideways? They're thinking, hey, wait a second, we don't want to be associated with these guys.
No, exactly. The team hopes to have its name and permanent home and away jerseys in place for next season from the get. So the Utah Mammoth, the Utah Outlaws, or the Utah Hockey Club, which one resonates with you, Wade?
I would go Hockey Club first, and then Outlaws second. That is, you know, it's okay, but I kind of hate that they kicked Wasatch out of the deal. I mean, that's a great homage right there to part of right there in the heart of Salt Lake. So,
and it really feels like you could do a lot with that logo as well.
Absolutely. And, so I'd say go with the hockey club. If for nothing else, I'm still a little miffed that Washington didn't stick with the football team years ago. They had the chance and they caved. They were cowards in that regard. Kind of even back in the old days when Ole Miss put it up to the fan vote and they had Admiral Akbar from Star Wars voted as their new mascot, and then they caved and went with the Black Bears. So be careful when you leave these things up to fan vote, because sometimes you actually have to follow through what you say you're going to.
Yeah, you need, or it's a bad look if you don't. So
right. Yeah, give me hockey club. I say let it rip. They're playing well with it right now.
I kind of like UHC. Yeah, let's roll with that. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today, because we've got in the green room Clay Bailey of the Associated Press ready to talk a little Memphis Grizzlies coming off of a big win last night. Let's do that when we come back after this.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
The weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and we have with us now, he covers the Memphis Grizzlies for the Associated Press. He is also suburban editor of the Daily Memphian. So we have the well-rounded Clay Bailey joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Clay, good afternoon.
How are y'all? The well-rounded part may be more about the head and the gut than it is anything else.
Oh, come on now, Clay.
We're not going there. We're not going there. But hey, big win last night at the FedEx Forum for the Grizzlies. Cut it close, 120-119 over Houston, the team that they are really battling with in divisional play, obviously. What do you like about these guys right now?
Right now, they seem to be playing much better. I mean, they got blown out in New York Monday night, but I've come to expect that 10 games out of the year, it's not going to matter one way or the other. somebody's either going to get blown out or they're going to blow somebody out and blow out good teams. So right now, even playing without Morant, who's still battling that shoulder thing off and on, they looked good last night at spots. They moved the ball well, and they came back in the fourth quarter, which was something they had not done against Houston this year. Houston had beaten them all 3 times and done it by winning the fourth quarter. So last night, taking the game at the end was a big plus for them.
How tough is it when you've got a situation like Ja Morant with the lingering shoulder situation, and you don't really know from one day to the next whether you're going to have him or not? I would imagine just rotations, people ready to be in rotations and what their role is going to be on a particular night got to be a little tough, I would think.
I think it is, but I do think this team has a lot of variable parts, and Taylor Jenkins has really done a lot of shifting of lineups. I mean, he started Luke Kennard a couple of games ago when Ja was out, and he started him at the point, which was not a spot that he would have been in, because that normally would have been Scottie Pippen starting in that role. But I looked last night, Luke started again and had 22 points, and he's had an average of 22 points the 3 games he started. He's gotten more involved in things. He's moving the ball more. Being involved as the point guard seems to make him more attentive across the board, and it may get him more open looks, which, of course, is what Kennard really needs. He's more of a catch-and-shoot guy than somebody that's going to create something off a dribble. But he has gotten better at driving through the paint, too. So that's one example of it. It is kind of tough not knowing when you're going to have Morant. And the shoulder thing just seems to keep coming back and forth, and they deal with it off and on. And, then he has other little nicks and knacks. And there's sometimes that I think that they're kind of giving him a night off too, because it's a long season and it's a lot of minutes per game. I mean, it just is. And so I do think that is coming into play with this too.
And to add to that, Clay, Ja's not a big guy.
He's not, and he takes a lot of bumps and he does some things when you get that far up in the air, just going to happen when you hit the floor. You may hit it with your feet 9 times out of 10, but if you land on somebody else's foot or you just land funny, then that ankle's going to roll and you'll be out for a couple of games with that too. And, the shoulder thing kind of happened when he was going up for a shot and he took a shot in the arm. And since then, it doesn't seem to be the same recurring thing. It's more just, okay, here's what's happened to it again. And, sometimes I wonder how many spots in the shoulder there are that can get hurt. But, you hope he comes back and plays a regular season down the stretch. That could be a major factor for them in holding on to the 2 or 3 spot in the West.
It seems like, to his credit, again, he is somewhat slightly built, but he doesn't shy away from any of that stuff. Like you said, he's always going to the rim and that kind of thing. I mean, he could probably alter his style of play and maybe address some of that stuff, but it doesn't seem like something he chooses to do. He made the declaration late last year that he wasn't going to dunk anymore, and then he drives baseline and goes reverse on somebody. So, I mean, it just feels like he's going to play his game, and then whatever happens from a physical standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's true. He did say he wasn't going to dunk, but when he went over Wembanyama a couple 3 games ago, he made dang sure he got up there and dunked on him, even though it didn't count. We've all talked about that being the dunk that didn't count, but everybody talks about. And so, I think he has changed his game some. And I think in some ways that may have also slowed some of his offense. I mean, he's such a high flyer and he's so electric. And yet, you're not seeing that as much. I do feel like he's doing more to facilitate the game rather than it being him against the world or him against a big center. early in his career, we used to watch, and if they switched on him up top on a pick and roll, and he had a big man on him, you could almost just see his eyes light up. Go, here goes another one I'm going to take to the rim, and he's taking plenty of them there too.
Clay, I got to ask, I'm prone to overreaction, but I'm watching the game last night and so many factors. The embarrassing loss Monday, you mentioned they're without Morant, crazy officiating right at the end of the game. It was on national television, which is a rarity. Am I overreacting to say that was not necessarily a season-altering win, but how massive was that win last night in Memphis for the guys?
Well, it was interesting. Before the game, I was already working on a story about the fact that they had lost 3 to them and that, they already had lost the tiebreaker. But, I kept asking, do you avoid 4 losses? Do you avoid getting swept by the team that's right above you? Before the game, like any athlete, they kind of downplayed it. Oh, we're just playing the game, trying to get by all this. But afterwards, there was a real sense of they wanted that game, that this was important. I think Luke Kennard said it was a scene setter for them. It was a statement game. And I know Santi Aldama said that he wasn't sure he could have slept last night if they'd have lost to them again. And the thing about it is, there was the one game, I think it was the first game, they lost to them by about 20. But ever since then, it was 4-2, and then last night was 2-1. So, all 3 of them have been close, and I think Memphis wanted to make sure that they at least showed that they could beat this team. Now, it's always funny when you got Dylan Brooks on the other side, and Dylan says, oh, we gave him a gift. And I said, why do you say that? He goes, oh, they don't play any defense. And I guess Dylan feels that way now that he's gone, and he's not the one that's on ball like Jalen Wells is.
I was about to ask you, Clay, it wouldn't be Memphis without interjecting a little showmanship, a little wrestling almost. We had 2 subplots last night, obviously with Dylan. I want you to speak to that, but then also, what about the big Titanic showdown? How do you grade the scorecard between Edey and Steven Adams down in the trenches last night?
Well, first of all, Dylan is Dylan, and he's kind of a joy to cover from a journalist standpoint, because he doesn't mince words. He'll say anything. If a guy's willing to say that he thinks LeBron's old and that they're going to beat the Lakers, then, and of course that came back and bit him, but it's a guy that's willing to say whatever. So, and Dylan is that kind of guy that every team has, that as long as he's your guy, he's your favorite villain. But as soon as he leaves, he's the most hated guy in the world. They did get kind of a mixed reaction for him during the introductions last night. But Dylan is always going to be hated, and I think he just relishes that role. And he continues to say whatever he needs to keep up that persona. Now, the Steven Adams, Zach Edey thing was really kind of interesting, because I kind of look at Edey as eventually maybe getting to Steven Adams level. Big, bulky guy, maybe doesn't score a lot, but maybe as he learns more about the game, he's already done real well with off-ball screens. He's doing the things that Adams did when he was here. And the other thing is that early on, Draymond Green said that he thought that Edey was kind of soft, or that Taylor Jenkins, the way he was handling him, was making Edey soft. Well, I've seen Edey go up against Jonas Valanciunas. I've seen him and Steven Adams kind of lock horns a little bit. And then, the other night, it was a Jazz game, and I don't know if y'all have seen this video, but Drew Eubanks and him got tangled up under one goal. And Eubanks took offense to it, and he took a running start to slam into Edey. Edey backed up about a step. Then he came forward at Eubanks, and Eubanks was backpedaling. So I think Zach's establishing himself as somebody that can be tough down there. He's got a lot of work to do as far as his hands, his strength under the basket. But I think those things will come as the more and more that he's in the league.
I will admit it was also fun seeing Brooks back. I love everything you said, and he is the ultimate supervillain. It was kind of refreshing to see him back in Memphis bricking threes, just like he did when he was in Memphis, shooting them out of series. He hit 10 the other night versus Boston, but he's back to his old tricks back in his old building last night.
Well, it was interesting because the first quarter he had like 10 or 11 points.
He was rolling.
And, I thought, oh, my gosh, he's going to play like he did in New York where he had 10 threes. and then Dylan came back to Dylan. And, like you said, the shooting got off after that. I mean, he still ended up with, I think, 20, 21 points. And, when you look at that on face value from an offensive standpoint, you go, oh, well, that's a pretty good night. But, it usually takes Dylan 15 to 18 shots to get there.
And worth pointing out, too, we talked about Morant being out last night, but Houston had Sengun out as well. So as captivating as that game was and as entertaining as it was, I think a lot of folks are already kind of salivating, thinking about both of those teams maybe meeting in the postseason at full strength. It would really be electric, I feel like.
Well, it's interesting because Danielle Lerner, who used to work for the Daily Memphian, is now with the Houston paper. She was there last night, and I told her, I said, well, Danielle, I guess I'll see you in the spring. And I think both of us were kind of thinking along that line that, come the second round, these could be the two teams that are fighting for it. And, as close as the series has been, as physical as both teams are, it make for a great series, especially when you start looking at playoff type of officiating, which allows a lot more bumping and hand checking and things like that. A lot more physical play in the postseason.
You mentioned real quick officiating. Did we ever get an official explanation on what the heck happened at the end of the game with the phantom timeouts from Taylor Jenkins?
I'm going to say that there was an anticipated timeout that was not called. Taylor was waving his arms going, go, go, go.
Yeah.
It's so natural for the timeout to be called in that situation. Van Vliet had missed the shot. And, the normal approach is for the team that grabs the rebound to call timeout so they get the ball in the front court. Well, in this case, there's a little bit of history there because several games ago at home, Taylor called a timeout right as Desmond Bain put up a three that would have put them ahead. And Taylor was really taken aback by that. He felt really bad about that. And so I think that played into Taylor not taking the timeout last night. But normally, and so many things are routine that would have been the natural time to call a timeout. And I honestly think the official just said, yeah, okay, he's calling timeout. And, there goes Jalen Wells in for a dunk. Now, they always get into the argument of, well, players heard the whistle, so the guy had a free run at that point. But I don't know that, between that and the Bain timeout that was taken really made for an interesting kind of several games at the end.
Clay Bailey of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Clay covers the Memphis Grizzlies for the AP. And Clay, I'm trying to figure out, and I'm hoping you can help us with some insight on this. We've talked a lot about the Jimmy Butler situation down in Miami, and it seems like they are going to have to trade him at some point. And he specifically said he does not want to be traded to Memphis. I've not heard him say that about any other team in the NBA. Do you have any idea where Jimmy's hatred of Memphis comes from, for lack of a better phrase?
I don't know if it's necessarily a hatred. I think, there have been players over the years who have kind of said, I don't want to go to Memphis. It's a small market team. It's not somebody where you're going to get a lot of advertising and a lot of endorsements and things. Sure, big name players are, but I'm not sure how long Jimmy would be here. I mean, it's an expiring contract. You'd have him on a rental, and I dare say he wouldn't stay. I dare say that the Grizzlies probably wouldn't want to sign him to that contract. And so, with that said, I mean, like I said, we've seen guys before who said, "I don't want to go to Memphis," and Memphis hates those guys, but it is one of those things that I just think that Memphis is the kind of market that unless you get here, unless you fall in love with the place, you probably don't. They don't get a lot of free agent signings. You don't see many big name free agents coming here. I mean, the biggest one was Chandler Parsons, and that was a disaster. I mean, an absolute disaster. And even to the point that the guy now admits that he went ahead and signed with him because he knew that the Dallas Mavericks or somebody else was going to do a physical on him and find out about the knee. So, I mean, I do think that, I don't think that Memphis is a destination point for free agents. But I do think that once people are drafted here, I think they like the franchise. They like the fan base. They like the city. I don't know enough about income taxes, but I know there are plenty of states that have them. And if you're playing in Memphis, you don't have to face that. So that's an amount of money that you can put on your side of the ledger that somebody else didn't take it away from you. So, I have no indication that people like Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bain, Luke Kennard has made it very evident he wants to stay. In fact, when his name came up in the Dorian Finney-Smith trade a couple of weeks ago, he made it clear he wanted to be here. And so, with that in mind, I think you see guys that come in that they like being here. I mean, obviously, Memphis went through the whole core four thing, and that was a lot of guys who had been in a lot of other places. Tony Allen had been in Boston. Mark had been in Los Angeles, although he really wasn't there. But, Mike Conley had been here the whole time. And I think to this day, Mike still likes his ties here. And so, you see all these guys together. Zach Randolph became a kind of a legend and a favorite son here. So you see guys that make that step here or land here because of the draft, and they end up liking to stay here.
Do you see Memphis doing something between now and the trade deadline?
My first reaction is no from history. They seem to make edgy type of moves on the edge, not wild edgy. But they seem to make a couple of moves that may solidify some things where they might be a little weaker in the second team or down the bench. You don't see them make a lot of moves that at the trade deadline that make a big difference. I can't remember really the last time that they made a move that was like you see with a lot of other teams that make that move to try to sprint towards the playoffs. You see it a lot in baseball, particularly. You'll see a guy get traded on an expiring. You'll trade expiring contracts because you might as well get something for him, even if it's a couple of second-round picks. And Memphis is great with second-round picks. So, all of that. I say that, but I've always said that the trade you never hear about is the one that happens. If you hear about somebody getting traded, you can almost bet that they're not. That, the one you hear, the one that all of a sudden shows up, you go, well, I didn't see that one coming. And that wasn't on any trade, whatever it is, trade asset on the internet where you can put teams together. I'm always love fans, well, I'd like to trade a second round pick for Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. And that's it, and they think they got a fair trade out of that. In fact, they'd want the Miami's second round thrown in with it.
Yeah, the ESPN trade machine is hot this time of the year. There's no doubt about that.
And they're hot, and there's probably not a lot of them that'll actually happen or really maybe even have any traction whatsoever.
Clay Bailey of the Associated Press with us here on Main Street Sports today, talking a little Memphis Grizzlies basketball. Clay, really appreciate your time and your insight, and look forward to having you visit with us again here soon.
Y'all call anytime. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clay.
All right. See y'all later.
Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back for the final segment of the week, it'll be what we're looking forward to this weekend on the sports landscape. So stick around for the weekend warm-up of Main Street Sports today after this.
Hadn't forgot that. You know what they say, let's go Strokes.
People are amazed at the variety and quality of guests we bring into Main Street Sports today. But when you've been in this business for nearly 40 years and you never throw away a phone number, it's pretty easy. Right, Wade?
Absolutely. And Wynn agrees with me. Check out some of our guests featured on Main Street Sports today.
Step back and catch my breath.
But I expect nothing less from you, big boy. Let's get going.
We make it work pretty good. So
the fans are tremendous. It's fantastic.
It was really amazing.
They call it performance. Yeah.
From preps to pros, you never know who's going to stop by. So be sure to listen to and watch Main Street Sports today from 2 to 4 p.m. daily on the MSM TV app. It is the final segment of the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We mentioned during the rundown, the Predators are dropping the puck in Buffalo here in a couple of hours. 6 o'clock puck drop Central Time up there as they try to snap a 2-game skid after having won a season best 5 games in a row. Lost at Vancouver Wednesday night 3-1. Lost at Anaheim on Saturday 5-2. So defensively, they played a little better than they had been, even at points during that 5-game winning streak, Wade, but just couldn't find the back of the net against Vancouver.
Yeah. Kind of been, it feels like every game has been a roller coaster. And it feels like we're putting Band-Aids on different parts of different pieces on this team all season long. And a 2-game losing skid coming in, but a chance, to close strong. They got 5 games left before a little mini break with the Four Nations face-off about to begin. So it'll be a big if, but man, you got Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Ottawa, Chicago in the mix, and then Buffalo again, a chance to maybe go on another little mini run. It'd be nice to see them get a little juice before a little bit of a layoff.
It's a tough stretch of the schedule, man. Again, they play back-to-backs tonight and tomorrow night. They're at Pittsburgh tomorrow night. And then Monday, they get back to Bridgestone, and they got Ottawa coming in. So 3 games in 4 days. It's, I guess they knew what they signed up for. But, that's a tough stretch, man. I can't imagine that's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been tough, and we didn't get to mention this, by the way, and I should have hit up producer Mark for this, but the other night when they played Vancouver, it was on Lunar New Year, and they also celebrated Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Night, and those jerseys, those sweaters they had on were out of this world.
Oh, yeah?
And unfortunately, I've been told the only way you can get your hands on one is by auction, so they put them things straight up to auction. You can't even go buy one. I was hunting on the store because those things were wicked, as the NHL folks might say. But man, it would be nice to string together some wins. Buffalo is sitting there right at the bottom of the Atlantic Division. They've got 43 points. The Preds are sitting there right at 43 points. Feels like 2 toss-ups you got in your next 5 versus them. Ottawa will be tricky, of course, and we know obviously Chicago is bad. But you can't take anything for granted because, as we said, this is a team that can beat anybody is also a team that can lose to anybody.
Yeah, you feel like this game tonight, though, is a winnable game for Nashville if they go in, continue to kind of batten things down defensively, because we've seen this team put up goals and plenty of them, particularly over that 5-game streak that they were on there at one point. Back-to-back wins against San Jose by 7 and by 7 goals and 6 goals in those. Scored 5 against Vegas to get the streak started. So, when the offense is clicking, obviously it's like they're a different team. So we'll see how it rolls out tonight. Want to mention, we like to go from preps to pros on this show from time to time. If you are a high school wrestling fan, you need to get at, well, if you're a high school wrestling fan, then you're probably going to go out to the Williamson County Ag Expo tomorrow for the high school state duels tournament. And I'm trying to pull up some brackets real quick. I can tell you that Summit in Class AA gets going bright and early tomorrow. They go at 9 o'clock. But you've got Class AA, you've got Class A, you've got Division II AAA, and then you've got Division II AAA, 2 4-team brackets there. And then you've got girls dual wrestling as well. So you can see some really great wrestling out at the Ag Expo, starting around 9 o'clock tomorrow. Locally, we've got Station Camp in the smaller Division I group. They've got Millington right out of the box. Tullahoma also goes against Signal Mountain. That's a 9 o'clock quarterfinal match there. In AA, again, Summit is opening against Houston at 9. Ravenwood, good luck. They've got 7-time defending Class AA state champion Cleveland in a quarterfinal match at 9 o'clock. So
I was just about to ask about that, Mo. What's up with Cleveland's record? Do they only have 12 matches this year?
I don't know. That looks a little odd to me as well. I don't know if they didn't all get into the system or what that is. I can't believe Cleveland only wrestled 12 dual matches. So we'll try to check on.
They are 12-0, so maybe they're like, you know what? We don't have to prove much more. We're just going to go ahead and get ready for state.
There we go. Battleground Academy and Pope John Paul II are in the Division II Class AA state semifinals. Again, that's a 4-team bracket there. And in D2 AAA, you've got Father Ryan. They open against McCallie. The winner will face Baylor and Christian Brothers for the state championship in D2 AAA there. Girls duels, it's an 8-team field, I do believe. You've got Cleveland there. I believe they won it last year as well. Locally, West Creek, Blackman, Riverdale, and Clarksville are all in the quarterfinals. They start at 11 tomorrow. Championships in Division I are set for 7 o'clock. In D2, they're set for 3 o'clock. So again, if you're a wrestling head, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but state dual wrestling starts up at 9 o'clock tomorrow out at the Williamson County Ag Expo here in Franklin. If you're not a wrestling head, but you'd kind of like to check it out, it'll be some great wrestling out there. I'm looking forward to it.
What is the NCAA adding women's wrestling do for the state of Tennessee?
I've not had really a chance to talk to anybody about that. Anytime something like that happens, it's great for the sport. It's going to be, it's going to open up some scholarship opportunities for a lot of these young ladies that may not necessarily have had that before. Tennessee was the first state in the nation to institute a girls state duels championship a couple of years ago when they did that. So Tennessee has really always been kind of forward thinking with regards to girls wrestling, both individually and with the duels. And adding that now at the NCAA Division I level it's only going to help. I think encourage more young ladies to get involved in the sport at a younger age. When you can tell people, hey, there's some money out there. It has an impact.
My other question is that going to take NCAA D1 quote unquote a couple of years to kind of get really competitive? You see this in some other sports like NAIA programs. Sometimes they're actually better than small D1s in certain fringe sports because of the history they've got. So I'm curious, how long will it take some big programs to emerge, you think?
And I think that's a great question, Wade. And I say that to say that I don't really have an answer for you, but just like you said, the kind of the learning curve of it, there aren't a whole lot of Division I clubs, programs. There's a lot of club wrestling out there, and I don't know if they'll just kind of try to transition or how some of them will handle that. But I think, again, it's a great development, and it'll be fun to watch how it evolves from its infancy and going up. So looking forward to seeing that. And again, a lot of young ladies here in the Middle Tennessee and across the state competing in wrestling, and to have that opportunity now to compete at the NCAA Division I level. I'll be interested to see how many programs there are for Division I women's wrestling, how many folks will kind of dip their feet into that kind of thing, just because, the financial outlay when so much other stuff is going on financially in college athletics right now. But it's great opportunities, and hopefully some of those schools will, take advantage of that and give some opportunities to some of these women athletes that are up and coming. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on, like you said. So state wrestling duels tournament, Williamson County Ag Expo starts at 9:00 tomorrow. If you see me, say hey. Sunday, the Clash, not the Clash at the Coliseum, but the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium will be on Fox this weekend, kind of getting NASCAR kicked off. So always fun to get the vrooms going on.
Yeah, it seems like it gets earlier and earlier, and I don't know what happened or what was going on, but I saw Chase Elliott was trending on Twitter earlier, so I don't know if that was good or bad, but it definitely means we're in the thick of things. NASCAR and F1 get cranked up, and it seems like them guys race all year long, and then you get about a 2-week layoff, and then it feels like you're right back to it.
This is interesting. They're wrestling. They're racing over at Winston-Salem at Bowman Gray Stadium, which is also where Winston-Salem State plays its football games. So they are going to race in heats, it sounds like, because they can't get 39 cars on the track at one time. They're going to split that 39 into 2 groups for heat races. 4 heats, I'm sorry. The practice groups will be split. There's going to be 4 heats, 3 10-car heats, 1 9-car heat of 25 laps each on Saturday. And then the top 5 from each heat will advance into Sunday's racing. Those that don't advance will race, I guess, in a consolation race earlier on Sunday. But this sounds kind of wild, but I mean, it is the preseason. And so I guess if there's a time for wild, this is it.
Yeah, let it rip.
Yeah. Bubba is supposed to run. Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez is running this weekend. Kyle Larson. Chase is racing, apparently. I don't know if that's why he's trending or not. And also Alec Bowman. So it's racing is right upon us. And so I'm sure we will try to visit with Heather Williams next week between getting some thoughts on the Clash and getting some thoughts on the Chiefs as they head into next weekend's Super Bowl. Always fun to talk to Heather, so looking forward to doing that. We've talked about the WNBA. We've talked about AU women's basketball. Again, we will be broadcasting live from their Media Day festivities on Monday down at Municipal Auditorium, so be sure and check that out. Unrivaled, we talked to Willie Ramirez about that 3-on-3 Pro League earlier in the week. They play again tonight, playing down in Miami, which is where they are playing their entire season, and seems like it has gone over really well in all circles.
Yeah, been hearing some buzz about it, which may sound small, but also feels like it's a significant thing, right? The fact that this is getting any buzz at all, it doesn't feel like we're too far removed from not much buzz about the WNBA as a whole, rightly or wrongly. And now we're talking about this this first league kind of finding its way. I think a lot of folks, there is a unique. I haven't had a chance to watch any of the content yet, but I do see the potential appeal of a casual person just flipping through channels. We're scrolling through the Max app, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, what is this? I'm going to check this out. It is kind of something that might potentially capture your eye, even if you're not necessarily the biggest women's basketball fan or even potentially the biggest sports fan.
I tell you, the thing that kind of jumps out to me and what I'm looking forward to watching when I get a chance is it's 3-on-3, but it's modified full court, as Willie was saying when we discussed it with him. So they are going up and down. When you think 3-on-3, you think half court, and if you're on defense and you rebound a shot, you have to throw it back out past the top of the key, and then you initiate your offense from there. No, they're getting up and down the floor. So it's challenging. Of course, they're professional athletes, so it's not a big deal for them. But 3-on-3, as we know it, this is not that. I am looking forward to seeing it. It's been televised on TNT and other places, but it's been mostly on Friday nights, and typically I'm a little bit busy on Friday nights, so haven't had much of a chance to try to consume any of that, but looking forward to doing so.
I'm telling you, this better be just getting us ready, though, for the 3-on-3 in the next Olympics. That's like I said, we got no excuses. I don't want to hear any excuses after a very subpar performance. We better make sure we take care of business out in LA, thanks to maybe this. Maybe get a little extra cardio by going full court to get ready for 28.
Well, yeah, between, having some unfinished business and it being on our home turf in 2028, you're right. I see where you're coming from. There's really no excuse for not taking care of business in 3-on-3 when we come back to that out in LA. That's going to do it for the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today here on Main Street Media, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Join us again Monday at 2 o'clock. Wade and I will be at Municipal Auditorium broadcasting live from the Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball Media Day festivities. Looking forward to doing that. Y'all have a great weekend. We will see you at 2 o'clock Monday.